overcoats and collars turned up. We were told at a later date that someone thought we were mistaken for Gestapo agents. By 10 p.m. I had enough and walked to the station. Everything was clear, no SS stormtroopers. I called my parents in Hamburg and told them that I would take the night train to Hamburg, would arrive at 8 a.m. I purchased a ticket and walked the dark streets around the station until it was time to board the train. A few days later, I found out that my uncle and one of my cousins were arrested in the apartment and taken to Buchenwald. My uncle returned eventually, but my cousin died at the camp. His funeral was on December 31, 1938. Without any trouble, I boarded the train and arrived in Hamburg, where my father met me at the station. My parents had a signal system. If the curtains were down at our apartment, no danger. If they're open, don't come up until the police, since the police might be there. The curtains were drawn, so it was okay to come up. I was home again. The next few months were spent preparing for my sisters and my emigration to the USA. Sadly, my parents never made it out of Germany. They perished in Auschwitz in July 1942. While waiting for my visa, one of the righteous Gentiles secured a job for me in his company. He had it cleared first with the Gestapo. Mr. Auerbach and his employees treated me very well, never a remark of any kind. After the war, I tried to locate him despite ads in Hamburg papers. No luck, never found him. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You just heard Mr. Miller speak, and one of the problems we always have when our survivors come, well, who is going to continue this? Who is going to continue telling these stories? Because these people we know are not going to be this forever. We bought an insurance policy. And the insurance policy we bought was someone I met at the German consulate 3 years ago when we were asked to do an intergenerational program on the Holocaust. We had a survivor, we had his child, and at the last minute we found we didn't have the grandchild, and we began looking around and we were told, don't worry, we have someone. I'd like to introduce Leora Klein, the president of 3G NYC, third generation survivor. Leora.
Thank you, Dr. Fluke, for your keen understanding of the need to remember and your consistently innovative and compelling programming. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for sharing your experiences and for that shockingly beautiful music. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? 6 weeks ago, on the first day of the Jewish New Year, my daughter, Margot Liv, was born. Thank you. Unlike my siblings, my cousins, my nephews, and my niece, she is not named for a survivor of the Holocaust. As I thought about what that meant, I was struck by the many decades that have passed since Kristallnacht. And I asked myself, once again, how will I tell my children about something I did not experience? How will I teach my children about something I cannot fathom? How will I explain to them why the Holocaust happened and why Holocaust education and remembrance still matters? Today's world is frightening. From ISIS to Ebola, there is enough to worry about without saddling our children with memories of horror and details of atrocities from 75 years ago. But the fundamental issue lies with humanity, past, present, and future. We must be vigilant with ourselves and our children, because when we are not, 6 million people are murdered. First, we must understand and help them to understand that the Third Reich and the Holocaust, Hitler's plan for the Holocaust, happened over the course of many years with countless acts of collaboration both active and passive, with willing participants and those who did nothing. When it is clear that people were killed simply because they were born into a religion different than the majority, and that the majority did not stop the laws from changing, nor did the majority prevent its schools, its parks, university, and its government from discriminating. When we explain that citizens allowed their children to become Hitler Youth and Nazis, then we can try and understand and explain the Holocaust and the murder of 6 million people. 6 million. Emphasis is placed on the enormity of that number, 6 million. But 6 million is actually so big, it is almost meaningless. Think about the number 6. Think about 6 of your closest friends and family. Now imagine they are gone. Think about one. Think about one person in your life who means everything to you. And now he or she has been taken away. I believe that is the way to start Holocaust education. Break it down, person by person, story by story, so children will learn about the lives lost and the individuals pulled from their mundane existence. Individuals leading their lives, preparing for a test in school, a job review, a bar mitzvah lesson, basketball practice, a first date, a wedding, a funeral, for a baby being born. Let's focus on one day, not a decade of war. Let's focus on the day before the last day of normal life. And within that day, let's start with an evening, with an hour, in a country, in a city, in a town, on a street, where a young girl is happily standing in her father's store, the first store on the block, watching him cover the register with a velvety cloth, carefully stacking bundles of receipts, shelving the remaining sheets for tomorrow's order. Give her a name, Edith. She is dressed in a warm navy wool coat with gold buttons and a red and navy hat. Her father, Aryeh, talks to her as he closes his shop, wondering what mother, Alice, made for dinner. The daughter, Edith, guesses potato soup, and the father, Aryeh, guesses a hot vegetable soup to chase the chill away. He locks the door, and he takes his daughter's hand, and they start to walk home. But that night, a Nazi youth hurls a stone and smashes the window of the store. Confusion turns to terror as they witness the destruction of that window, their store, their neighbor's bakery, and the last thread of security in their lives. Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. A pogrom unleashed by the Nazis throughout Germany and Austria on November 9th and 10th, 1938, 76 years ago today. As we heard firsthand, synagogues were burned, Jewish institutions destroyed, including orphanages, Jewish businesses looted, and Jews were murdered, 30,000 arrested and sent to concentration camps. Before Kristallnacht, nothing could have been worse than Kristallnacht, but the signs were ominous. The 1933 boycott against Jewish shops, bans against kosher butchering, the 1935 Nuremberg laws, among dozens of other laws depriving Jews of their rights, Jews were stripped of their German citizenship. In 1936, Jews were forbidden to participate in parliamentary elections. In 1938, there were further restrictions, and then there was the implementation of ID cards. And then Kristallnacht, a gleeful partnership between citizens and their government to go after the Jews. The Jews were blamed for the event and held legally and financially responsible for the damages incurred. As a child and a teenager, it was very difficult for me to understand how this could have happened. As an adult, I see all too easily how. So now we must ask ourselves, how do we carry this part of history? How do we carry this part of our family history? Charlotte Delvaux, the French resistance fighter, prisoner, and survivor of Auschwitz and Ravensbrück, said about the new arrivals at Auschwitz, they expect the worst, not the unthinkable. She resolved to write about the Nazi concentration camps the way it really was. She refused to surrender to the impossibility of her task, to describe the unthinkable. It was this she foresaw that people who came after would not want to think of something so horrible. She wrote a play of her experiences with other French, non-Jewish women dying in Auschwitz, and she titled the play, Who Will Carry the Word? It was this question, who will carry the word, coupled with the urgent obligation I felt to carry history's lessons that moved me to help build a forum where none had existed. In early 2005, a small group of grandchildren of Holocaust survivors started coming together to grapple with our legacy. We did not know each other, but we each grew up feeling a strong connection to our family history and, admittedly, feeling a bit different because of it. By sharing the stories of our grandparents' survival and their unfathomable losses, we began to explore what this connection meant. Despite the diversity of our professional backgrounds and upbringings, and despite the fact that we had just met, we came to quick consensus on our generation's mission, and we founded 3GNY, Third Generation New York. Through education, action, and reflection, 3GNY enables its 2,000 plus members to honor its history and leverage its personal connections to combat intolerance worldwide and raise awareness about human rights issues today. Our commitment to the survivor community is central to our programming. Most importantly, we invite survivors to share with us their stories. But in 2010, we decided that we have to learn the stories ourselves. And we developed and formally introduced We Educate, our own program which empowers grandchildren of survivors to learn and share their family histories and lessons of the Holocaust with students in classrooms. This is a concrete way for the next generation, my generation and my children's generation, to take ownership and responsibility of our legacy and our privilege. It is primarily through us that future generations will hear the actual stories of our grandparents. We Do was developed in conjunction with Facing History and ourselves. Since June 2010, we have trained 12 groups of grandchildren, which is about 10 grandchildren per class, so 120 grandchildren. We visited over 30 schools in the tri-state area, including Forest Hills High School, Livingston High School, the Beacon School, the Satellite School, the Lower Manhattan Community Middle School, Bronx Leadership Academy. Our next training starts in January, so if you know anyone, please let me know. And I invite your participation. We will help you and your family learn your story, and we will help you to share it. As grandchildren, we are in a unique position to spotlight the individual experience of the Holocaust from the collective and provide students with an entry point to examine prejudice and stereotypes in their own community. We've impacted over 1,000 students so far, and this is just the beginning. We need you and your stories to help support our work. It's still impossible to understand the horrors of the Shoah, and no matter how much I am told to look forward and to embrace life, I will never forget that I am the direct descendant of 4 survivors who somehow managed to live through the ghettos, Yellow Stars, Third Reich, Hitler, Mengele, and the attempted systematic elimination of the Jewish people. My father's parents survived Auschwitz. My mother's father survived a Soviet labor camp. My mother's mother survived Lichtenworth. And my husband's father survived as a little boy in France, moving from town to town. I was born with the gift of light, and each time I say my name, Leora Ariella, I remember that I'm named for my great-grandfather, Leo Aryeh, who did not survive the war. But in Hebrew, my name also means my light. I am keenly aware that with my privilege comes responsibility, so I will share with my daughter Margot and with my son Boaz both reasons for my name. And I will also tell them about my Savta and Saba and my Zadie and Bubby before their experience in the war, during their experience in the war, and after. And although I'm still unable to comprehend what happened, I now know that it is not my understanding that is needed. I must remember. We all must remember. And I welcome each of you to share with me in this active act of remembering. I want to thank all the survivors who are here today, and I would like to say a special thank you to Judith Rose, whose mother survived, lived, and worked with only 200 other people, including my grandmother, and we need that connection here today. So thank you all.